Japanese style garlic fried rice. This one is buttery and very special because I have a little secret ingredient that you would never guess. This is my Japanese garlic fried rice. So this is unlike any other fried rice that I've done on my channel, and I do a lot of fried rice, as you guys know, but typically mainly Thai style and Chinese style fried rice. This is a Japanese style, and I have a very odd but very, well, pretty much like game-changing ingredient here that I'm going to be using a little bit later on. We'll get to that part in a minute. First up though, so important here, how do we cook the perfect Japanese rice? And for me, because I didn't grow up eating Japanese rice or cooking Japanese rice, I grew up eating and cooking Thai jasmine rice. You know, I've had to work on perfecting my skills at making Japanese rice. So I'm going to share all those little tips and tricks with you guys so you don't have to go through the pain that I did of all the bad Japanese rice that I cooked. So let's start off with the pre-preparation to the rice. Now, I've had this Japanese short grain rice soaking in some water for about 30 minutes. Oh, before I did that, I washed the rice. So I washed the rice under the tap, then I poured some extra water on top and I've had it soaking. That's really important. I skipped that step once and it did not go well. The rice grains were totally unevenly cooked and everything just didn't work out. Now, you want to drain the rice. Now you want to keep shaking and just kind of agitating that sieve until you stop getting any drips of water down the bottom. This just means that you've got control over the amount of water that you're adding to the rice in the pot. So you'll be surprised at how much water comes out from this little jigging about. Now transfer that rice into a pot. Now we want to add some water. And how much water do we add? Well, this is where it gets a little bit confusing, I think. So rice itself only needs an equal amount of water to cook. But of course, rice isn't cooking in a vacuum and some of that water is evaporating off. So you only need just a little bit extra. So this is like 2 cups of rice, 2 cups of water, and just a 1/4 cup of water extra. So if you're going to be doubling the quantity of rice, you still only need 4 cups of rice, 4 cups of water, and a 1/4 cup. You don't double that extra 1/4 cup. Doesn't matter how much rice you're doing, just an extra 1/4 cup is all you need. Trust me. All right, so add in the water. Turn the heat on, put the lid on. Tight fitting lid is essential here. And then once you can hear the pot bubbling, that's when you want to start your timer. So just wait a few minutes here. So I can hear that my pot has started bubbling away in there. So I really don't want to open the lid off and let all the heat out. So I'm just going to have a quick look just to show you guys. Okay, yep, it's boiling. Now I'm going to turn the heat down. So about a medium low heat because I don't want the rice on the bottom to burn. Now start your timer, 10 minutes. So at this point, our rice should be cooked and dry. Let's have a look. Again, I don't want to lift the lid up. And if you're at home, what I would suggest is not lifting it, but I'm just going to show you guys really quickly. Water, I can't see any water, so that's good. What I'm going to do is actually take this off the heat now, but leave the lid on. And I want to leave that for another 10 minutes because the steam that's trapped inside there is going to continue kind of evenly and gently cooking the rice all the way through. That's right, my friends, a little bit of patience is needed. Okay, so now we should be looking at some seriously perfectly cooked rice. Fingers crossed. Now look at that, looks beautifully dry. And then I've got a little large wooden spoon here that I'm going to use to fluff this up. Beautifully fluffy, not soggy at all. Just right, let me just try. Just really nice tender grains, not mushy. Great. Okay, now I've made too much rice here, which is generally what I do. I do that even with my Thai rice because I like to have 2 days or 3 days worth of rice in my fridge always. It's an Asian thing, I think. Okay, so I just want about 3 cupfuls of rice here. Now, while the rice is still warm, this is when I'm going to add my little secret ingredient. So while I was looking online for the perfect Japanese fried rice, I always like to do some research before I get in front of the camera for you guys. And I came across a blog called Chopstick Chronicles, and she had the most amazing addition, which I just think is genius, and that is add some mayonnaise. So I've got some Kewpie mayonnaise, which is Japanese mayonnaise, and I love this stuff. So I was like, yes, need to try this out. And I did, and it was fabulous. So that's why we're doing it today. So add your mayonnaise into the rice. And now just mix that through the warm rice. To me, it's got to be that Japanese style Kewpie mayonnaise because you don't want a really sweet, you know, kind of mayonnaise in here, unless you like a sweet fried rice, but it's not for me. Okay, so before we get into the pan, we're gonna just crack our eggs. And now, I think I did mention at the beginning of this video that this is a really buttery, garlicky kind of fried rice. So of course, we need some butter. Now, just as that butter is foaming, I'm gonna add in my garlic. I love that smell. The smell of buttery garlic really is one of those joyful things. Now, I don't want the heat up too high here, guys. I really just want that garlic to soften. I don't want the butter to color too much. Just when we get a nice, gentle, foaming sizzle, I'm gonna add in my rice. Okay, quick toss around. Now I'm gonna add in my soy sauce. Now keep mixing that through until you've got an even colored palette of rice grains. Now push everything to the side and let's do our eggs. Now I'm using a non-stick pan here so I don't have to add any extra butter or oil, but you might need to if you're not using a non-stick. I just like to move the egg around a little bit and then spread it out and then kind of roughly sort of scrape and flip it over. Now just break that egg up and toss it through. Now for an extra little bit of greenery and some flavor, I'm going to add in some parsley. And now let me check for some seasoning here. Buttery, garlicky rice. Oh, that is so good. And that little tiny touch of mayonnaise, kind of just gives it an extra something. Oh, I love it. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of salt though, because even though we added the soy sauce, we didn't add very much, and I don't wanna kind of darken the color anymore, but I do want a little bit more seasoning. Now that is looking great. Now this makes the perfect friends with things like teriyaki chicken, teriyaki salmon, grilled prawns, just about anything really. And look at how beautifully separate and fluffy those rice grains are. Oh, wow, amazing. Butter makes everything better. And mayonnaise, you've got to try the mayonnaise thing, guys. It's so good. It's almost like the mayonnaise coats each of the grains in just a slight amount of flavor. Kind of helps keep them all separate too. Thank you, Chopstick Chronicles. Such a great little tip. Yum.